There's a moment in life when you realize something invisible is controlling you. It's not an outside force. It's not fate or bad luck. It's something much deeper and more subtle. It's the spiritual wound you carry engraved in your soul from your relationship with your father. John Bowlby, a British psychologist born in 1907, dedicated his life to understanding how bonds form between parents and children. His attachment theory revolutionized our understanding of how early relationships shape our entire existence. But what Bowlby discovered goes beyond the emotional realm. It touches something profoundly spiritual. Picture yourself as a 5-year-old child for a moment. Your father comes home from work, tired and distant. You run toward him with a drawing you made at school, eyes shining with excitement, hoping for his approving gaze. But he barely looks at you, maybe nods while checking his phone, or perhaps doesn't even do that. In that instant, something breaks inside you. It's not just disappointment. It's much deeper. It's the first crack in your soul. Before we dive deeper into this profound topic, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel if this content is resonating with you. Sharing this knowledge is my way of healing too, and your support helps me reach more people who need to hear this message. This spiritual wound from your father isn't simply what he did or didn't do. It's not just about whether he was physically present or not. It's something much more subtle and powerful. It's the energetic void created when we don't receive the spiritual validation we needed as children. It's the absence of that look that tells us, you are enough, you are valuable, you deserve love. Your father might have been a good man, hardworking, responsible. Maybe he never yelled at you or physically mistreated you, but there was something in him, an emotional coldness, an inability to connect with you on a deep level. Perhaps he himself carried wounds from his own father, perpetuating an invisible cycle of spiritual pain that transmits from generation to generation. What hurts most to recognize is that often our fathers weren't conscious of this. They believed that by providing financially, by being physically present, by not being like their own fathers, they were fulfilling their role. But spiritual fatherhood requires something more. It requires emotional presence, constant validation, the ability to see and celebrate their child's unique soul. This wound manifests in your adult life today in ways you might not recognize. Have you ever wondered why, despite your achievements, you feel an inexplicable emptiness? Why you constantly seek approval from others? Why you're afraid of failure, as if one mistake would reveal that you're really not enough? The father wound creates a toxic internal dialogue that constantly whispers, you're not enough. You have to prove your worth. If you make a mistake, you'll be rejected. This dialogue doesn't arise from your adult experience. It stems from that first energetic rupture with the father figure. Watch how you behave in your intimate relationships. Do you constantly seek signs of approval? Do you become anxious when your partner doesn't immediately respond to your messages? Do you feel you have to be perfect to deserve love? These aren't normal insecurities. They're echoes of that primordial wound. In your professional life, the wound manifests as self-sabotage. Just when you're about to achieve something important, something inside you holds you back. It's as if an invisible voice tells you, who do you think you are to deserve this? You procrastinate, doubt your abilities, or even reject opportunities you know you deserve. Let me ask you something intimate. Have you ever felt that no matter what you achieve externally, there's an internal void that never gets filled? Comment below if you've experienced this sensation, because recognizing this is the first step toward healing. Ancestral energy is real. Your father's unresolved patterns, the fears he never faced, the wounds he never healed, are transmitted energetically. It's not genetics, it's something deeper. It's spiritual information that passes from soul to soul. Your father perhaps never received from his father the validation he needed, and therefore couldn't give it to you. Many people believe they've overcome their childhood. That was many years ago, they say. It doesn't affect me anymore. But the spiritual wound from the father is cunning. It camouflages itself. It hides behind your professional success, your apparently functional relationships, your image as a strong and independent person. But look deeper. Why is it so hard for you to celebrate your achievements? Why do you always feel you have to do more to be worthy of love? Why in moments of stillness does an inexplicable sadness arise? These are symptoms of a wound that never healed. The emotionally absent father leaves a specific mark on the soul. You create armor to protect yourself from future disappointments, but that same armor prevents you from receiving the love you so desperately crave. You become hyper-independent, controlling, perfectionist. You believe that if you're good enough, you'll finally receive that validation your father never gave you. The most painful truth is that we often continue waiting, unconsciously, for our father to change, to finally give us what we need. But real healing begins when we accept that this validation has to come from somewhere else. From ourselves, from our connection with the sacred, from our capacity to become the loving father we never had. Bowlby demonstrated that children who don't receive a secure base in childhood develop what he called insecure attachment. But what science is beginning to understand is that this isn't just psychological, it's energetic. The wound creates blockages in your energy field that affect all areas of your life. Recognizing this wound doesn't mean blaming your father. He did the best he could with the tools he had. He probably carried deep wounds too. It's about breaking the cycle, healing what he couldn't heal, becoming the link that transforms generational pain into wisdom. If you want to deepen this healing process, subscribe to the channel where I share practical tools for this spiritual transformation journey. Healing begins with radical acceptance. Yes, I was wounded. Yes, this affects me today. Recognizing this isn't weakness, it's courage. The unprocessed wound becomes the unconscious program that directs your life. But the wound that's recognized and honored becomes your greatest source of wisdom and compassion. The first healing exercise is writing a letter to your father that you'll never send. Not to blame him, but to express everything you could never tell him. Dad, I needed you to really see me. I needed you to tell me I was enough just as I was. I needed to feel that my existence filled you with joy. Cry if you need to cry. Tears are sacred when they come from truth. Afterward, you can practice visualizations where you imagine receiving from your adult father the validation the child in you needed. This isn't fantasy, it's energetic reprogramming. You're creating new neural and energetic circuits based on love instead of lack. Family constellations, energy therapies, deep meditation, these are all powerful tools. But most important is your willingness to feel the pain you've been avoiding. Unprocessed pain becomes chronic suffering. Pain felt consciously becomes wisdom. When you begin to heal this wound, something magical happens. You stop desperately seeking external approval. You develop real self-esteem, not based on achievements, but on recognizing your intrinsic value. Your relationships become more authentic because you're no longer trying to fill an emotional void through others. Your creativity flourishes because you're no longer afraid of judgment. Your spirituality deepens because you can connect with the sacred from a place of integrity rather than need. Your capacity to love expands because you've learned to love yourself unconditionally. The final result of this healing is freedom. Freedom to live your own life instead of constantly reacting to wounds from the past. Freedom to choose consciously instead of being driven by unconscious patterns. Freedom to create relationships based on love rather than need. Imagine waking up each morning feeling sufficient, complete, worthy of love simply for existing. Imagine making decisions from your inner wisdom instead of from fear of rejection. Imagine loving and being loved from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. This isn't just possible, it's your spiritual birthright. You deserve to live free from generational wounds. You deserve to experience your own creative power without limitations from the past. You deserve relationships that nourish your soul instead of draining your energy. Healing the father wound is one of the deepest spiritual works you can undertake. It's not easy. It requires courage to face the pain you've been avoiding. But on the other side of this pain lies your true freedom. There's something you need to understand about the healing process. It's not linear. There will be days when you feel you've made tremendous progress, and others when the wound seems more present than ever. This is normal. Spiritual healing works in spirals, not straight lines. Each time you return to face the pain, you do so from a place of greater wisdom and strength. During this process, you'll likely experience what therapists call resistance. Your conscious mind will want to heal, but there's a part of you that will resist change. Why? Because your identity has been built around this wound. You've learned to function from lack, from the need to prove your worth. The idea of existing from wholeness can feel terrifying because it's unknown territory. Let me share something I've observed in years of accompanying healing processes. The people who most fear change are those whose wound has served as their survival engine. If you've achieved professional success, if you've built an image of strength, if you've developed iron independence, all of this may have been born as compensation for the father wound. The question then becomes, who will you be when you no longer need to prove anything? What will you do with your life when the engine is no longer the need for validation, but the pure joy of existing? These questions can create vertigo, but they're also the doorway to your true greatness. The physical body also holds memory of this wound. You might have noticed chronic tension in your shoulders, as if carrying an invisible weight. Or perhaps you experience unexplained fatigue, as if constantly fighting against an invisible current. Digestive problems, recurring headaches, sleep difficulties, all of these can be physical manifestations of an unresolved spiritual wound. When we begin the healing process, the body often reacts. Intense emotions can arise seemingly from nowhere. You might have vivid dreams related to your father or childhood. You might even experience temporary physical symptoms while your energy system recalibrates. This shouldn't frighten you. It's a sign that healing is occurring at a deep level. Your body is releasing stagnant energy that's been stored for years, even decades. It's like cleaning a physical wound. First, you need to remove everything that's infected before it can heal cleanly. One of the most profound revelations in this process is realizing that your relationship with your father continues to evolve, even if he's no longer physically present. Healing doesn't require him to change or acknowledge the impact of his actions. Healing is something you do for yourself, by yourself. This can be both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it means your healing doesn't depend on external factors you can't control. Terrifying because it means you have to take complete responsibility for your own transformation. There's a moment in the process where the inner victim resists healing. This part of you has received attention, compassion, and understanding for its suffering. Unconsciously, it may fear that healing means losing this identity. If I'm no longer the wounded person, who am I? It wonders. This is where self-compassion comes in. You need to thank that wounded part for trying to protect you all this time. Recognize that it did the best it could with the resources it had. And then, with love, invite it to allow you to grow beyond that limited identity. Forgiveness is a crucial aspect of this process, but not forgiveness as a moral or religious concept, but forgiveness as energetic liberation. You don't forgive your father because he deserves it, but because you deserve to free yourself from the weight of carrying resentment. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or justifying behaviors that harmed you. It means recognizing that clinging to past pain only hurts you in the present. It's a practical decision more than an emotional one. You choose forgiveness because it works better for your well-being than resentment. When you finally release the father wound, something extraordinary happens in your relationship with your own masculinity or femininity. If you're a man, you stop carrying the burden of constantly having to prove your manhood. If you're a woman, you stop looking to other men for what your father didn't give you. You develop a mature relationship with authority. You no longer automatically react with rebellion or submission to authority figures. You can evaluate each situation from your own wisdom instead of from old survival patterns. Your relationship with money and success also transforms. You stop pursuing external achievements as a form of internal validation. You can enjoy success when it comes, but your inner peace no longer depends on it. You work from passion and contribution, not from the neurotic need to prove your worth. In intimate relationships, the change is particularly noticeable. You no longer seek for your partner to be an emotional father or mother. You don't project your unmet childhood needs onto them. You can love from abundance instead of from need. This doesn't mean you become emotionally independent to the point of coldness. On the contrary, you become capable of real intimacy because you're no longer afraid of being abandoned. When you know you're complete on your own, you can choose to share that completeness with another human being. Your relationship with your own children, if you have them, becomes revolutionized. You break the chain of generational pain transmission. Instead of unconsciously repeating your father's patterns, you can consciously choose how you want to relate to your children. But even if you don't have biological children, your healing affects future generations. Every person who heals an ancestral wound is contributing to humanity's collective healing. Your individual process has cosmic repercussions. There are moments on this path where you'll experience what we might call ego death. The identity you built around the wound will begin to dissolve. This can generate temporary existential crises. If I'm not the person struggling to prove their worth, then who am I? This symbolic death is necessary for your spiritual rebirth. Like the caterpillar that must completely dissolve in the chrysalis before emerging as a butterfly, you too must allow your old identity to disintegrate so your true self can be born. During these transition periods, it's crucial to be patient with yourself. Don't try to rush the process. Spiritual transformation has its own timing, and forcing it can create more internal resistance. Seek support when you need it. This might be through therapy, support groups, spiritual communities, or friends who understand your process. Healing, while internal work, doesn't have to be a solitary path. Meditation becomes an invaluable tool during this process. Not necessarily formal meditation sitting in lotus position, but any practice that helps you connect with your essence beyond thoughts and emotions. It could be walking in nature, writing, art, music, any activity that brings you to a state of pure presence. In these moments of inner stillness is where you can begin to hear your own authentic voice, separate from all the messages you internalized about who you should be. This inner voice is your most reliable compass for navigating your new life. Gradually, you'll begin to notice subtle but profound changes. Your intuition becomes clearer. Your decision-making improves because you're no longer constantly second-guessing yourself. Your vital energy increases because you're no longer spending it maintaining emotional defenses. Synchronicities and opportunities will begin to appear in your life in ways that previously seemed impossible. When your internal energy changes, your external reality inevitably transforms to reflect this new vibration. But perhaps the most beautiful change is the ability to experience pure joy. Not the conditional happiness that depends on external circumstances, but that intrinsic joy that arises simply from being alive, from being conscious, from being part of this mysterious and beautiful universe. As long as your father's spiritual wound remains hidden in the shadows of your unconscious, it will continue directing your choices from darkness, limiting your potential, sabotaging your happiness, and perpetuating cycles of pain that don't belong to you. But when you have the courage to face it, to feel it completely, to honor it as part of your story without allowing it to define your future, then you begin, for the first time in your life, to truly live your own existence. This is your invitation to freedom, your invitation to become the artist of your own life instead of being the prisoner of your past. Your wound may have defined you until now, but it doesn't have to determine your future. If this message has touched something deep within you, if you've recognized your own wound in these words, I invite you to comment your experience below, give this content a like so it can reach more people who need it, and subscribe to the channel where I'll continue sharing tools for your transformation. We heal together, we grow together, and together we break the cycles that have limited our families for generations. Your healing isn't just for you. It's a gift for everyone who will come after you. It's your contribution to a more conscious, more loving, more free world.